Guardians, I am really excited for this one. I had a feeling during last season that we'd see Igneous come back, and when it was confirmed by Bungie, I was excited but also nervous because while I do think that for the most part, Bungie's done a good job with bringing back a lot of our iconic weapons, such as Austringer, after what happened to Mindbender's Ambition and Spare Rations, I can't help but feel a little bit nervous when they talk about bringing back iconic weapons because if they can screw those two up, they can screw anything up. The good news is they didn't mess up with Igneous. This weapon is still a must-have. I will say that while I do think the new perk pool for sure has some upgrades, I think the pool as a whole is a slight downgrade compared to the old pool. But don't let that fool you, Igneous was the best 120 in the game and it still is, by a lot. There is a lot to talk about on this weapon. We're going to talk about god rolls, stats, and what exactly makes Igneous such a monster. Now, I wasn't able to get Igneous the last time it was in the pool, and I knew that on paper it was easily the best 120 in the game, and after getting my hands on it, I finally get to understand the hype because this weapon is incredible. I am someone who switches loadouts a lot, literally all the time. I get bored if I don't. But since I got Igneous, it has been a staple of my loadouts. I have well over 1,200 kills on it at this point, and for someone who switches loadouts a lot, that is a lot of kills very quickly for me. But honestly guys, I legitimately think this might be the best PvP hand cannon in the game right now. This gun hurts people.
Grass grows, birds fly, sun shines, and brother, I hurt people.
If you play PvP at all, and if you like hand cannons at all, you need this weapon. And I want to point out that I know trials can be pretty intimidating, but you don't need to go flawless for this weapon. Adept weapons are nice, but in most cases, the gap in performance between an adept weapon and a normal one isn't that big. Adept weapons are nice, but in most cases, the gap in performance between an adept weapon and a normal weapon isn't as big as some people may think. As an example, I don't have an adept immortal, but I have a normal one that's a 4 out of 5 roll with target lock, and it's just as overpowered as any adept immortal. And while I wouldn't say Igneous is broken like the Immortal, if you don't want to have to worry about going flawless, then just put on a Card of Wealth, farm engrams, and then focus the normal version at Saint. Now let's talk perks, and I'm going to start by addressing what I said before because yes, the new pool is for sure something of a downgrade. You can see the two perk pools here, the old one on top and the new one on the bottom. On the old one, we lost Quick Draw, Killing Wind, Outlaw, Subsistence, and Overflow. Instead, on the new one, we have Kill Clip, Slick Draw, Keep Away, Rangefinder, and Fragile Focus. In the fourth column, we lost Rampage, One for All, Snapshot Sights, Elemental Capacitor, and Celerity. Instead, on the new one, we have Precision Instrument, Incandescent, Golden Tricorn, Frenzy, and Eye of the Storm. Some of these new perks are for sure an upgrade. Keep Away is a fantastic addition, same with Eye of the Storm and Tricorn, but losing Elemental Capacitor, Quick Draw, and Snapshot is what annoys me the most. And for that matter, Subsistence and Overflow are great perks on 120s, even in PvP, because they help a lot with the usually terrible magazine capacity. And I'm hoping the perks change again next season because I would love to see Quick Draw, Snapshot, and Cap return, and if I were to pick a new perk to have, it would be Perpetual Motion in the third column. For that matter, now that hand cannons are finally viable again in PvE, it would be really nice to see Subsistence or Overflow return as well. I'm going to start talking about perks by getting the ones I'm not excited for out of the way. Starting in the third column, Heal Clip. This isn't a bad perk, but it's not one of my top choices. If Igneous had Kill Clip in the fourth column, then I'd be a lot more excited about this perk since they would have perfect synergy. You get a kill, reload, get your health back, and a damage boost, but without that, I'm just not interested in this perk. Next up, Slick Draw. Not much needs to be said here, they should have just kept Quick Draw because Slick Draw is one of the worst perks in the game and Bungie needs to stop being afraid of fast handling weapons. Then we have Rangefinder. Not a bad perk, just not one that I would say Igneous has really ever needed. Moving on, Fragile Focus. This perk has gotten a lot better, but there's just other perks here with bigger benefits. Going on to the fourth column, Precision Instrument. You need 3 stacks to get a big enough damage boost for it to matter, and by the time you reach 3 stacks, the gunfight will probably be over, and given that the boost only lasts about 1.25 seconds, you probably won't be carrying it over into your next gunfight. Now, if 1 stack allowed Igneous to 2 body and 1 crit, then I would like it. I will say there are a couple of benefits that may make this perk still worth considering. First off, Precision Instrument will let you 3-tap a Guardian with max resilience and an overshield. So, if you get one of these, it may be worth keeping in your inventory if you end up matching teams with a lot of Void Titans. Of course, this definitely is not as useful for general play as a whole, but also worth keeping in mind for that scenario. Plus, Precision Instrument does stretch out your range a bit more as well. Next up, Incandescent, a great PvE perk, but without Subsistence or Overflow, I'm probably not going to be using Igneous in PvE. Then lastly, Frenzy. Some people really love this perk. I tend to just not be as big a fan of it. For the record, it's a fantastic perk, it's just that most players simply are not going to be able to take full advantage of it. Now, moving on, here's the perks that I am excited for. First off, of course, Keep Away. A passive plus 10 to your range, 20 to your reload speed, and an accuracy increase whenever your opponents are more than 15 meters away from you, and if you're using a hand cannon, you really want to avoid engagements inside of that distance anyway. Next up, Rapid Hit. A longtime favorite among PvP players, landing crits will give you a boost to your stability and reload speed. Now, I'm not as much a fan of this perk on 140s, but on 120s, the value of having stability and reload speed boosted cannot be understated. Then, lastly, in the third column, Encore. Kills with this weapon boost range, stability, and accuracy. This can stack up to 4 times. In PvP, you get 1 stack for body shot kills and 2 stacks for crit kills. You get 5 range and 8 stability per stack. This is a great perk, and you can see in the footage right now, it turns Igneous into a laser beam. Moving on to the fourth column. First off, Golden Tricorn, one of the best damage boosters in the game. You get a kill with the weapon, and you get a 15% damage boost for 7 seconds. If you get an ability kill while that first stack is active, the timer refreshes and you get 2 stacks, which moves that damage boost all the way up to a monstrous 50%. Of course, this perk does take a bit of setup to get the full benefit from, but on 120s, even 1 stack is still very valuable, as that extra 15% makes it so that you can kill in 1 crit 2 body. And even with just that 15% boost, if you can make yourself Radiant or get another damage boost, you'll be hitting for more than 100 a crit, so you can 2-tap. Next up, Opening Shot, of course, boost to your range, stability, and aim assist on the opening shot of an attack. Now, this bonus only lasts for that first shot, which is why the big reason this perk is valuable is for the aim assist. The aim assist boost will borderline guarantee that your first shot is a crit. The range and stability isn't as valuable just because you're only getting that for the first shot, but the aim assist boost is noticeable and very helpful. Then, next up, Moving Target, a slight boost to your strafe speed and a passive plus 10 to your aim assist when you're aiming down your sights. This perk is great, and I feel like it's one that doesn't get talked about enough. This perk is particularly valuable on 120s because they tend to have lower aim assist than other archetypes. Igneous's base aim assist is already better than other 120s at 69, nice. Moving Target gets you up to 79, that puts your aim assist more in line with 140s. And I would take this over Opening Shot just because that boost is there anytime I'm using my sights, which is going to be 90% of my gunfights with a hand cannon. Then, lastly, of course, Eye of the Storm, old reliable. This perk is a favorite for a reason. You get a boost to your accuracy and handling when you take damage. Meaning anytime you get into a head-on gunfight, this perk is going to help you. This perk will be there for nearly every gunfight you get into in PvP, and it is one of the best dueling perks in the game. Now, as far as barrel perks go, for most people your best choice is going to be Fluted Barrel for the handling and stability. However, However, if you main a class or subclass with ways to boost your weapon handling, such as a Warlock with Ophidians, or a Hunter with On Your Mark or Threat of Ascent, then you could also look at Small Bore for range and stability, Hammer Forge for range, or Corkscrew Rifling for range, stability, and handling. Now, as far as magazine perks go, Ricochet rounds is the obvious choice here for range and stability. My second choice would actually be Flared Magwell for the boost to reload speed. High Cal wouldn't be a bad option either, more range and extra flinch. For your masterwork, the beautiful thing about a stat monster like Igneous is nearly any masterwork is going to work well on this weapon. My top choices would be stability or handling, mainly because Igneous doesn't have any issues with range, so a range masterwork isn't really necessary in most cases. Even a reload speed masterwork isn't necessarily bad, though it is the least desirable out of all the options here. There is a role here for everyone, which is awesome. Do you want a role for kill chaining, Encore and Golden Tricorn? Want a dueling monster, rapid hit or keep away with moving target, opening shot, or Eye of the Storm? Are you more of a passive player, fragile focus or rangefinder with opening shot or moving target, aggressive player, keep away or potentially heal clip with Tricorn or Frenzy if you can take advantage of it? There is legitimately something here for every player and every playstyle. Now, my ideal role, meaning a general purpose role that will work in any PvP activity and that I can comfortably swap between any character and any subclass, would be Fluted Barrel, Ricochet rounds, keep away, moving target, and a stability masterwork. And there's a reason for this. Igneous is a stat monster, and I want to lean into that. The stat spread from that role is 80 range, 60 stability, 52 handling, 60 reload speed, and 79 aim assist when using my sights. And that's just on the normal version. On the adept version, it's slightly better, 83 range, 60 stability, 55 handling, 63 reload speed, and of course, aim assist stays the same. The beautiful thing about this too is that all of the stats are high enough you could throw on any adept mod you want on it and it will perform very well. I would probably go with adept handling or adept stability for your mod. I would also be fine with that role with Tricorn instead of moving target just for the damage boost, and opening shot would also make a good enough substitute for moving target. That would be my ideal role, but the good news here is that there are so many good combos with this weapon that there are dozens, if not hundreds, of roles you could get on this weapon and it will perform extremely well. Now, let's talk about what makes Igneous so good and why it's the best 120 in the game. And the first thing, obviously, is that Igneous is a stat monster. 120s have their advantages: superior range to other hand cannon archetypes, higher damage, more flinch, so on and so forth. But they have their drawbacks, the biggest really being that they usually have awful stat spreads. But Igneous doesn't have this issue. You can get stats on par with most 140s and still have the benefits of a 120. At that point, the only downside is the slower TTK at around 1 second, but as long as you play carefully, the lower TTK really isn't an issue. And if you want to really bring that TTK down, go for a roll with Golden Tricorn and then build into an ability, get that 50% damage bonus, and you're in 2-tap city. Then there's really just how this hand cannon feels. Most 120s feel very slow, chunky, and have heavy recoil. But Igneous just doesn't seem to have these issues. It's a 120 that feels just as clean as a 140.
This is wonderful!
There we go.
10 seconds.
God, this thing feels
Bring it
amazing.
home,
Holy
Guardians.
shit.
Nothing's getting in your way.
Jesus, okay.
Not even the mightiest of weapons.
The recoil is very controllable. The weapon model is very slim and unobtrusive as opposed to most other 120s, which tend to be very large, and it has very clean open sights, which is something that helps a lot in gunfights. All of that together with Igneous's amazing stats and excellent perk pool just makes this weapon a monster in the Crucible. The other thing I want to mention is that Igneous is an energy weapon, and while you can pair this with a variety of special weapons, I think most of us running hand cannons are using shotguns as our secondary. They just pair so well together, not like peanut butter and jelly, but more like a nice steak with a high quality wine or whiskey. And with Igneous being an energy hand cannon, it opens up that kinetic slot for shotguns, and these days, I'm a lot more impressed with the kinetic shotgun offerings than the energy slot ones. Such as, for precision frames, you have Fractithist, which I think is easily on par with the Matador, if you can get a good one. Then, for aggressive frames, Imperial Decree or Astral Horizon, two of the best aggressive frame shotties in the game. And if you're like me and are still on the lightweight shotgun train, Reeswalker, Wastelander, and the new shotgun from Crota's End, Swordbreaker, which is easily the best lightweight shotgun in the game. On top of all that, Igneous looks great, it shades well, and it sounds like it's punching a hole through space-time, so there's really nothing not to love about this weapon. So yes, I know Trials is suffering. Believe me, I cannot stand Trials. I just don't like the mode, but it is absolutely worth going through the slog for Igneous Hammer. I know for newer players, or even longtime players who may just be dipping their toes into PvP, Trials can be intimidating. But don't let that keep you away. Even if you don't go flawless, a normal Igneous Hammer is still well worth your time. The best 120 in the game is the Adept Igneous, and a close second is a normal Igneous. The difference in performance isn't as wide as some may have you believe. So, do yourself a favor, hop into Trials, and get yourself a good Igneous Hammer. It is well worth your time, you will not regret it. That's all for me today, Guardians. I know this was a longer video, but there's a lot to talk about on this weapon. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, do me a favor and leave me a like and a comment. Let me know what roles you're going for. And as always, hit that subscribe button with the bell icon. It really helps me out a ton when you subscribe. As a reminder as well, I have a Twitch and a Twitter, and you can find those links in the description. But for now, I will see you all in the next video. Peace, Guardians. There we go. Awesome. Outstanding work, Igneous.